Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Cody the Coin Raptor coming at you with another Bitcoin episode. And today's episode is actually really important because I want to talk about the possibility if Bitcoin is heading towards a bear market. And I've got some really interesting charts and things I want to show you guys. So stick with me through the entirety of the video, and the information you're going to get here is going to be fantastic. Just make sure you hit the subscribe button, like, and then also follow me on X and Threads. So with Bitcoin over the past couple of weeks, we've seen a little bit of a bounce off of support here at about 77K. And so now I'm starting to think if this is just a dead cat bounce or if Bitcoin is going to fall even further. And so the last video I talked about this, I said there was a possibility that we could actually head into this ultimate support box that I've made here in TradingView, and this goes down to about 66K, and that's still a possibility. But that being said, I want to go ahead and show you guys some important metrics that we can go through to determine whether or not Bitcoin is heading towards a bear market, or whether or not we've actually entered a bear market. Now, the first thing I want to talk about here is the super trend indicator. So the super trend indicator, you can find it here on TradingView. I made a whole video about super trend, but it shows you, roughly speaking, a buy and sell signal. I have the weekly on right now for Bitcoin. If you back this out here and you take a look at the super trends history, you can see that it's been fairly accurate as far as trends go. And you can see here that it was mostly correct when we go through 2021, buying in July of 2020, and that would have been a nice little increase, and then selling in what looks to be about May of 21, and then buying again here back in September and selling in January of 2022 before the huge decrease in the Bitcoin price. Now, one thing you'll notice here is that it actually said buy back in January of 23, and if you had done that, you would have made significant money if you had listened to the super trend indicator. Now, when it comes to super trend, it's much better to look at the longer term. This is the weekly, and that gives you an idea kind of like the Bitcoin cycles, and you can see where the bear market basically took hold, and where the bull market kind of took hold. You can see that it goes all the way back to 2018, 2019. Definitely something I'd recommend looking at. So this indicator, I think, has actually been fairly accurate. We're still sucking buy right now, which I think would be 1 point towards not being heading towards the bear market. So I think that this is actually a bullish indicator. It's still saying buy right now. If this changes, I'll definitely let you guys know. If you wanted to go ahead and take a look at the 1 day, it's kind of a lot more messy. So this isn't really something I would look at long term and determine whether or not we're actually heading towards a bear market. But if you guys are interested in the super trend indicator, I made a whole video on it, and I will be posting a link to that video in the description. So if you guys want to go ahead and see that. Another thing that we want to talk about here is the crypto fear and greed index. And so this fear and greed index has been a fairly good indicator to determine whether or not we're actually in a bull market or a bear market. And you can see here that usually when sentiment gets flushed out, you can tend to see a decrease in the number of bullishness. Like, for instance, back in the 27th of February for this year, we went down to the level of 10, which is a level that we don't normally see outside of the absolute bottom of the bear market. And so sentiment had gotten that bad, and so now we've actually started to see a little bit of recovery in the crypto fear and greed index. We're sitting at about a 30 as opposed to a 10. So I actually think that means that we had a nice flush out of the crypto markets, and especially for Bitcoin. And I think that's actually still another bullish indicator, because once you flush out and you get a lot of these, especially a lot of the leverage out of the system, that kind of limits your downside as people aren't forced liquidated, and the price will continue to go lower. So that's, I think, a bullish sign for this as well. The next thing I want to talk about is your drawdown. So we've seen Bitcoin. This is another chart here for the at BitBo. This shows your level of drawdown from percent from the highs, and you can see here that there have been some huge drawdowns in Bitcoin's history. Like, for instance, back in 2011, it went all the way down to 92%. Back in 2015, it went all the way to about 80%. During the bear market of 2019, it went down 82%. And then back in the absolute bottom of the most recent bear market, it went down about 75%. So this is typical. Bitcoin normally has these levels of drawdowns. We've seen the drawdown kind of peak over the last couple of months here. To zoom in a little bit, we can see the zoom out just a bit. We can kind of see we went all the way down to about 22, maybe just a bit lower than 22. But this is a pretty standard size drawdown for Bitcoin. Now, going down, 15, 20% is not really a big deal. And it's not really indicative of there being a bear market. So, again, I would think that this is another good sign for Bitcoin. But that being said, the biggest drawdowns always start as small drawdowns and then get larger, but this isn't outside of the realm of possibility. This is normal Bitcoin volatility. Looking at Bitcoin's previous history, if we take a look at our rainbow chart, which kind of shows us a good indicator of where Bitcoin is compared to where the halving is, you can see here that we're kind of still at the beginning of the cycle. Normally with the Bitcoin cycle, you have a halving and then the price kind of goes sideways for a bit, maybe goes up a little bit, and then really starts to accelerate and the price really starts to move upwards. You kind of see with this rainbow chart that we're starting to see significant move up for the price. And we've already kind of started to see that a little bit, but there's still a larger area to go to. Normally it hits, in the case of the rainbow chart, up to like orange or yellow or maybe even red. We haven't even gotten anywhere close to that. We're still stuck at kind of like this blue or this green. So that's one way of looking at it. It's not a very scientific chart. This isn't like the chart to beat all charts, but it's just another thing that I pay attention to. Another chart I want to show you guys is the risk calculator on alphasquared.io. This risk calculator is also fairly accurate, I think, backtesting it. And the risk calculator just essentially models risk in Bitcoin right now. And so usually this tends to peak at about like 95 or in the 90s. So a scale of 0 to 100, 95 is close to the most risky possible. So it does tend to peak in the 90s here. And we haven't even kind of come anywhere close to that. Like back in 2021, it went all the way up to 90. And there's two separate peaks here. One was 90, one was about 80. We haven't even come anywhere close to that. The highest we've actually come close to is about in the 60s or so. So this shows us that we're not even close to the bull market top. And if you pay attention to the MVRVZ score, that's also something you'll see as well. This is again, taking the market value divided by the realized value of Bitcoin and then giving you what they call a Z-score. Normally, this Z-score in green here, this goes up to all the way up to about like 8 or 9 or maybe even like 7. We haven't even gotten anywhere close to that. We're still stuck at like 1.74 right now. So, and again, nowhere close to the typical bull market top for Bitcoin. So this is another reason why I think that we're still on the cusp of another big bull market. So there have been a couple of charts I've showed you. I think that so far, I'd say it's probably 70, 75% chance or so that we haven't even seen the high for this current Bitcoin bull market. And so I do think that we're going to wind up going past 100K again, north of 120, 130, 140, maybe even 150 by the end of the year. I think that's still on the table. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the Bitcoin options market and the fact that we have a large options expiry on the 28th of March. So that's just 5 days away currently from the recording of this video. And we're sitting at almost $12 billion of options. Again, sitting here, mostly calls, about half or so puts. And so we have a max paying price at 85K. Well, hey, look where Bitcoin price is right now, 85K. Remember in the last video that I talked about the Bitcoin options market, I said it's very possible the Bitcoin price will gravitate towards that 85K by the end of this options expiry. And that's kind of what we had so far. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're still stuck around this 85K region for maybe another week or so, but you can always fluctuate plus or minus $1,000, $2,000 any of the direction. That's something to keep in mind. But it's very, very, very possible we're going to see it stay in that region. That way, it causes the maximum amount of pain to all the contract holders. So far, that's what we're starting to see. Now, in other news, we're having more whales buying Bitcoin. So, Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, put out a new press release a couple of days ago, and they said that they're offering another series of preferred stock. And right now, they've raised $700 million in order to go and buy Bitcoin. They're offering a 10% dividend, essentially, for people who are willing to buy this new preferred stock that they're putting out. So they're going to be buying, presumably, another $700 million of Bitcoin very, very soon. And in addition to that, if you take a look at our Bitcoin spot ETFs, you're starting to see from the weekly chart here that we're now starting to see inflows into spot ETFs. Now, for the past, let's say about 5 weeks or so, we've seen nothing but huge outflows to Bitcoin spot ETFs. Now we're starting to see the market recover a little bit. Now we're starting to see less of a flush in the market. I do think that a lot of the panic selling is mostly over. And in fact, if we go through, if we do go into back into the load the boat zone, I'd be really surprised if we actually went down to 73K. I think that period right now of us going potentially into ultimate support, I think that there's a higher than likely chance that we're not going to touch this ultimate support area right here and get that ultimate flush, because essentially we've already had that ultimate flush. We've seen maximum fear, we've seen a huge drawdown, we've seen panic sellers, we've seen liquidation, and now we're starting to see a little bit of recovery and the market returns to equilibrium. So I would be really surprised if it got into this ultimate support region. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is whales, and whales have been buying Bitcoin. This is the whale wallet number 12, and whale wallet number 12 has been buying a massive amount of Bitcoin over the last 30 days. You can see here they added 6,000 on the 28th of February and another 2,500 Bitcoin on the 11th of March. So they have been buying, they have not been selling, and so you can see whales are taking advantage of this volatility, and they're going to be profiting from it handsomely. And you can see with this whale wallet especially, they'd sold about 30,000 Bitcoin near the turn of the new year, and they made a handsome profit because they had been buying a large amount of Bitcoin all throughout 2022 and 2023, and so they finally realized a significant chunk of that profit. I'm talking about millions and millions of dollars here of Bitcoin. So something to keep in mind. All right, so let me know what you guys think. If you think it's possible that we're going to head into the ultimate support region, if we're going to head down to the 60s, let me know. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys have been up to. I have not sold any of my Bitcoin yet. I'm still waiting for the bull market top. Okay, so leave a comment below, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.